Hello, boys and girls. This is your good friend, Winston Anderson, better known as the Anointed Disciple. Uh, I think I was going to have another fireside chat today, and doing my LA stories today. So I'm going to do another one of my LA stories. Um, I lived in Texas for a little while after I got out of the Air Force. I was in the Air Force at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. Loved it there. And after I got out of the Air Force, I lived in Dallas, Texas for a little while. I worked in a place called Galleria in a store called I Magnin. It's one of them high-end stores. Met a lot of nice people there. But I used to go play basketball at college nearby, and I met a guy named Russell. We played basketball so many times together. And one day he was kind of sad. I was like, "What's wrong, man?" He was like, yeah, my roommate bailed on me and I'm stuck with the rent by myself. And it was just like a godsend because I was in a bad way and I, I didn't have a way to, I was looking for a place to live myself. So I said, hey, I'll move in with you and I'll pay half the rent. He said, cool. So, me and Russell became good friends. We lived together for like about 6 months. Me and Russell, we had a friend called Lafayette. We used to call him Lafayette. Man, this dude was crazy. He used to, he had this apartment complex where he had three different girlfriends. I remember on Thanksgiving, this dude, he went from one house to the other. He went from May's house to Faye's house to, I can't remember the third girl's name. I just remember May and Faye because their names sounded alike. And he had to fight his way out of May's house and then fight his way into Faye's house. And we ate at all three of the girls' houses, all of them could cook too. Anyhow, after about 6 months, Russell decided, I was telling him I wanted to go to live in LA. And he was like, yeah, I want to go live in LA too. I said, well, I got an aunt that lives there. He said, I got an uncle that lives there. I said, cool. So we booked a flight. I quit my job. We both moved to LA. I moved in with my aunt, Miss Gordon. He moved in with his uncle, Jerry. And, we still hung out together and stuff and met a lot of nice people while we was there. I met a girl named Karen. So I moved out of my aunt's house because she came home one day and caught me in bed with a girl. And she was like, oh, you got to get your own place. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, man. It was embarrassing. But anyhow, I was looking for an apartment, and I was working at a place called some bank downtown, and I met a girl named Karen at the bank, and she was like in the same situation. She needed a roommate. I needed a place to live. Couldn't have worked out any better than that. I was like, thank you, God. So I moved in with Karen, and Karen lived. I didn't know it at the time, but she lived right on the outskirts of Watts. Now, if you don't know anything about California, Los Angeles, California, Watts is the worst place to live in California. Watts is next to Compton. I moved from Compton to Watts. Well, actually, outside of Watts. It's a little bit outside of Watts. They used to call it Hollywatts. Like Hollywood, they call it Hollywatts. So it's the better part of Watts. But anyhow, me and Karen lived together, and things was going good. And one day, me and Russell, we used to catch the bus home together because he didn't live far from where Karen lived. So me and Russell caught the bus home. We were on our way to Karen's house, right? So we get off the bus and we see these two guys fighting, two young guys. Look like about 16, 17 years old. And I'm 22, 23, 24 years old right there. I think I was 23 years old at that time. And I'm thinking, I'm going to break these two young guys up for fighting because they shouldn't be fighting. And Russell said, nah, bro. He said, you don't want to mess with them. I said, why? He said, look, this dude got a blue flag hanging out of his left back pocket, and the other dude got a blue flag hanging out of his right back pocket. They both Crips, but they from different sets. I said, oh, I said, see, I wouldn't even known that. Russell said, yeah, I used to live in LA before, so I know all this. I said, oh, okay. So we kept on walking. And as we kept on walking, there was a young guy, a guy about my age, sitting on the bench waiting on the bus. And he gets up and goes to try to do what I was going to do. He tries to break these guys up from fighting. So we walking down the street and, you know, we said, man, I can't be bothered with that. We walking down the street and all of a sudden we hear this commotion coming from behind us. And we stopped and turned around and looked. Here come the two guys that was fighting each other, chasing the guy that was trying to break them up from fighting. Same thing I was going to do. So he runs past us and he stops at 90th Street, right? And he says, he backs up against the wall like this and he says, yo, come on, blood, come on, blood. They said, what? This ain't blood, this is cuz. And they both pulled out guns and just go pow, 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 pow. Killed the dude. And we're like, you know, two doors away from them. You know, like I'm in this the alcove of this store, and there's a store there, and there's the next store there where they killed this dude. So they turned around and looked at me and Russell, and we went like this. So they ran this way, we ran that way. So when we got to the next street, we turn around and look. Here come the police pulling over, get out the car to attend to the guy that was shot. Didn't even chase the guys that shot him. And I'm wondering, why the police didn't chase those guys? So, we ain't think nothing of it. The very next day, me and Russell on our way home, we get off the same bus stop, turn the corner, we walk to 90th Street, right? Where we see the blood stain on the ground on 90th Street where this guy was shot. So we keep walking and we get to 91st Street. Now, Karen lives on 92nd Street. We get to 91st Street, the very next block. Very next day, the very next block, there's a puddle of blood there. And these two girls were standing there and they was like, oh man, that's a shame. That was the same dude that shot that other dude yesterday. So obviously, this dude knew some bloods. That's why he said blood. But see, Crips call each other cuz. They don't call each other blood. So because he said blood instead of cuz, they killed him. So the next day, those two cuz, one of those two cuz got killed on the very next block. And I mean, it started a gang war. This gang war went on for weeks. And it's a shame. In LA, they have a funeral parlor. And in this funeral parlor, it's like, they don't go in the funeral parlor to have the funerals. Because they have so many funerals from so many people getting killed that they just got to keep it moving. So what they do is they have drive-by funerals. If you've never heard of a drive-by funeral, this is how it is. They have the casket, they have a big picture window. They have the casket with all the flowers and everything around it. Open casket with the dude laying in the casket, and people would drive by, you know, say what they need to say and keep on moving. You know, the drive-by funeral. It's like McDonald's. They just keep drive to a funeral. So somebody came through that was one of the bloods that killed the Crip, and they pull out their machine guns and shoot up the funeral parlor, shoot up the coffin, and the man's dead already. They desecrating his dead body by shooting up the funeral parlor. Shot up the coffin. Everybody running. Yeah. So I wrote a little poem about it. I said, City Slick Cheetah with his 9mm flat blasted the Crip because he was flipping a lip. The next day they blew blood away. They said, yo, this ain't cuz, this is blood. We don't play. On the very next day, on the very next block, that cuz got pow, smoking some rock. There in the puddle of blood he lay. They said, yo, that's the cuz that blew blood away yesterday. The violence went on for weeks and weeks. Crips and Bloods keep dying until the violence peaks. And then comes the part that makes mothers scream with horror when they start shooting up the coffins in the funeral parlor. I wrote that poem for that incident, that whole little soliloquy from that day. And wow, just an unforgettable day in my life. Just goes to show you that sometimes it's better to mind your own business. All right? And that's a little nugget from me to you. All right? So thanks for listening. Love you guys. I'll be back tomorrow with a whole new story. I guarantee you. Okay? All right. Love you guys. Bye.